video, we're going to be taking a look at the DC Direct, DC Essential Superman, The Return of Superman. This is kind of a bittersweet style review, because as most of you would probably already know that AT&T has shut down the DC Direct department. What few figures we're getting are going to be the last of the DC Direct figures ever. The DC Essentials line is a 7-inch line. According to the box, this is based on the 93 Superman Reign of the Supermen, issue number 81. But he also wore this outfit in the post-crisis Superman during the New 52 when he was doing heroics in secret. He was saving the planet when nobody knew he was actually in the New 52, him and Lois, when they had their son Jonathan. The packaging is really nice. It's a black and white motif of the DC Direct in a silver foil. In the back you can see the other figures in the wave. You see the Batman, the Speed Force Flash, Nightwing from the New 52, or Rebirth Batman, and the Superman in the background. On the back you see a picture of the figure and other figures in the wave. On the bottom you have the manufacturing information, some order info, and the UPC code. On the top you have a nice Superman logo. Alright, now let's open them up. As you can see, Superman doesn't come with any accessories. He's just a standalone figure. This is my very first DC Essentials figure. Here we have Superman outside the packaging. If you notice, I have a issue with mine right out of the packaging. They installed this forearm backwards. This is the front. This is the back. Luckily, it looks like they just flipped it, and I don't have two of the same forearm. If it was two of the same forearm, it would be curved over this way. So it looks like I can just do a heat and pop and fix this. This kind of stinks, but this is my very first DC Essentials figure, and right off the back I have a defect like this. It's kind of sad. I do have a paint smudge here, and some little bit of silver splatter through here. All that I'll have to fix. And before we finish up the review, I'm going to go ahead and fix this forearm, swap it around. But I want to point that out before I did the full review. I've taken care of the issue with the forearm. I went ahead to heat it up in some hot water and swapped it out. And this material, it's very tough to get the pin to go through. Even after heating, I had to really heat this material to get that pin to push back in. Getting it out wasn't as much of a problem as putting it back in. And if we get any apart, I did notice the few other joints, like the wrist joints, are very small and delicate. Something you might want to be careful with these figures. Same way with the neck. The neck is a very thin ball peg on a hinged ball peg. So if it doesn't want to move, be very careful with that, because right now it's already, after it's cooled down, it's already stuck. One thing that DC Direct was known back in the day, they used to use clear pegs, clear joints, and they would snap. And it's not that condition here. It's just very, there you can see, it's been very thin joints. So basically I'm going to just pose them and just set them on the shelf for once I get done. But after fixing the forearm, it's not a bad looking figure. It's a very good clean body design. One thing that's kind of odd though is with the ab crunch, you can actually see the pegs. The peg goes all the way through. It's not built into, it's single. The chest is a single piece, what it looks like. Instead of being two pieces like on the old DC UC figures, you can see the seam here, and this was actually glued around the ab crunch. Same with the shoulder joints. It makes me wonder if you could heat and pop these shoulders out. If this actually is a single piece chest, but it is a very hard material. With the design of the figure, they're going with this metal cuff look. It'd been nice if they would actually design some cuffs to actually go onto the wrist. Same way with the feet. It'd been nice if they sculpted the armored toe pieces as well. It's just painted. With this look, the ones with the Kryptonian healing suits, this should have been like a raised logo, much like similar to like this, but actually a 3D style logo. And if they were truly going with the Reign of the Superman, Return of Superman look, he should have had long hair. I like the DCUC figure. A lot of people call it the mullet Superman, but that was the way he looked when he came out of the power armor, wearing the healing suit. It was nice that he actually sculpted the costume lines instead of just being like a nude style buck. You can see it in the ab section. A few places here and there you see wrinkles in what would be fabric. Now let's do a little bit of run down the articulations that's here. The neck is on a disc hinge on a ball peg on top, but it's so thin right now it's stuck. I am not wanting to move that because that will snap if I move it too much. It's so delicate. On the shoulders seem to be on a disc hinge. Rotate full 360. Go out that far. Bicep swivel, full 360. Double jointed elbows. Get you all the way up, bend all the way up. Hinge and swivel wrist, full 360. He has an ab crunch. Mine was a little stiff when getting out of the box, but after a little moving it a little bit, it's freed up. You can move back to here, all the way back, and crunch this far forward. Full 360 on the waist. Ball jointed hips. And kick out to here. Forward. And that far back. Thigh swivel. Double joint knees. Go all the way. They're a little tight. Then it's not wanting to move. That top joint does not want to move on this side. What about this one? Well, this one moves a little freer, but then now the bottom one's stuck. Mileage may vary with how stiff and how your joints are stuck. With a little bit of hot water should be able to fix a lot of this stuff. The ankles are a lot like what McFarlane does with his figures. There's like a Robotech style joint on that swivels, hinges, and depending on the location of your ankle, you can get a pivot or just swivel around. The articulation is pretty good on this figure. Like I said, just a little tight in there, so a little heat should be able to fix some of it. But in other places, you want to be very careful with, like with the neck and the wrist. Now let's do a little bit of size comparison. This is a 7-inch scale figure. He's going to tower over Marvel Legends figures. Here's Superman next to Bucky Cap and Wolverine. Here he's next to Mattel's version of the Regeneration Suit Superman. Also standing next to the Superman in his red and blue costume. Here he is next to the DC Multiverse Rebirth Superman and the DC Direct Classic Superman. Since the DC Essentials line is more of a 7-inch scale figure, here's a comparison of a couple of other 7-inch figures. We have the Mattel WWE Elite Mr. T and the Mattel Master Universe Classics He-Man. And just for the heck of it, here he is next to my custom DC Reborn Superman. Overall, though, it's a good-looking figure. It does have a few little shortcomings, like we mentioned, with the tightness of the joints, and mine came with the forearm backwards. It should be, hopefully, it doesn't happen to too many people. But with a little bit of hot water and a little time, and you should be able to switch it around if it does happen to you. It would have been nice to have a little more sculpted pieces on here, but I've seen with a lot of the DC Essentials figures, they just use painted details instead of actually sculpted details for budget. It's a good looking sculpted body, but I don't do too many 7-inch scale figures. I have a friend of mine on the food, he's actually shortened these down to legend scale, which is very tempting to do, but it's also, this is going to be one of the last of the DC Direct figures. It's kind of, they want to modify one of the last of its kind, or it is very tempting to shorten them down. One of the best things about this figure is the head sculpt. That is probably one of the best looking Superman heads that's been released. The face is very well painted. It's got the 5 o'clock shadow and the nicely painted eyes and clean lines for the hair and eyebrows. The Superman logo is nice and clean. I do have, like I mentioned, the paint scuff here. And a little bit of silver splatter on the forearm. But he's going to make a good addition to my Superman collection. The big debate is, do I want to try to shorten them down? But for now, he's just going to be left as is and go on the shelf. And I'll debate later if I want to shorten them down. They're going to have to be custom projects as it is. And that's all for this review, and I'll see y'all next time.